Hail thee well and welcome all. I'm the Jake of all trades, and this week we're going to be foregoing the normal layout of the show to try something a little bit different. I had recorded some content earlier today, and I'm pretty excited about it. I think it'll make a good video, but it's going to take me a little while to get it all edited. So in the meantime, for this week, I thought I would just try to upload something kind of short with some of my thoughts about some stuff that happened in a game that I played in very recently. So what I want to talk about is something that happened in a game that a friend of mine has just started. He's actually one of my players in the Nordia game, and I finally convinced him to take a step behind the GM screen and to give that a whirl. And it's been quite a bit of fun playing in his own setting with his kind of rules and stuff like that. And it's been a lot of fun, and it's been really cool to see what someone else can create and bring to the table in that regard. And it's also been a lot of fun just playing a new character. Playing a character. It's been a while since I've had that opportunity, so I've been enjoying that quite a bit. But there was an instance a couple weeks ago that, it left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. Even after a game had finished and I was on my way home, I was still thinking about this, and I was trying to figure out why it bothered me so much. And it wasn't until the next day that I did a little bit of research and I figured it out. Now, this encounter kind of started out like normal, like most of the other encounters that had in that game up to this point, but it quickly became evident that these people that we were fighting were masters of stealth and very, very difficult to spot, just so that we could even try to hit these guys. And it was revealed to me by the game master later that this is an attempt to combat a couple of the players in the party. Our rogue and our monk both have insanely high perception skills, and whenever opponents were trying to hide from us, those two players were able to almost without fail spot anyone who's trying to hide from us. And so he created these enemies as a means of trying to fight against that. And at first, very interesting concept. I liked the idea of like having NPCs or enemies that had been specifically designed to try to combat our strengths. I think that makes for a more interesting game. It requires us to rely more on our wits and our ingenuity to try to overcome the challenge, rather than brute force and, sticking with our same old tactics. And it was an interesting encounter, and it was a lot of fun, and I probably wouldn't have had a problem, except that really late in that fight, near the end of it, our rogue, our ninja, rolled a perception check and rolled a natural 20, trying to spot one of these invisible enemies who was, trying to attack us from hidden, from stealth, while they were hidden. And she rolled a natural 20, but the game master, did a little bit of math behind the screen, and he said, "Hey, that actually, you don't actually see them." And I was really upset by this, and I think a lot of the other players were too. Everybody was under the assumption that a natural 20 always succeeds, no matter what you're trying to do. If you roll a 20 on a d20, you just did whatever you were trying to do. To which our GM very confidently responded, "No, a natural 20 is not an automatic success on a skill check." Wait, what? Hold the phone. A natural 20 is always a success on a skill check, on an attack check, on a skill save, or an ability save or whatever. It's always a natural 20 is always a success, right? Well, I was really upset about this, and like I said, I did a little bit of research the next day, and I realized, oh yeah, and he's right. In 5th edition, a natural 20 is not an automatic success on a skill check, only for attacks and only for saves. And then I went back further. I was like, well, maybe this is just something that I brought over from Pathfinder, right? So I went to Pathfinder rules, and I looked through there, and I read through the forums and discussion on the rules for a while, because it's never explicitly stated, but in the subtext, in between the lines, most people have inferred that no, in Pathfinder, a natural 20 is not a success on a skill check, necessarily. Not unless the total of the 20 plus the ranks in that skill exceed the DC, meet or beat the DC of that check. Only then is it a success. And so I started thinking, well, geez, I've been playing Pathfinder wrong this whole time. This must have been something I carried over from 3rd edition, right? From 3.5 maybe. Nope. I did some research there too. And no, even in 3rd edition, no, a natural 20 is not an automatic success on a skill check. And that was when the skill system was invented, I realized, after doing this research. It wasn't until 3rd edition that it was ever implemented, and in 3rd edition, it is never even explicitly stated. This And I was like, oh my gosh, I just stumbled upon like a conspiracy or something. Every game I've ever played in like a D&D game or a Pathfinder game, a natural 20 has always been a success on a skill check, but it's never said in any of the rules anywhere. And this blew my mind. Whole generations of gamers have been playing under the misconception that a natural 20 is an automatic success, and also that a natural 1 is an automatic failure. That's never explicitly stated either. I thought that was fascinating. If you roll a natural 1 on an athletics check or something like that, and you have, a plus 10 to your athletics, as long as the DC is 11 or less, you still succeed. You got an 11, and so you're able to vault over that, that 5-foot wall. Maybe not as gracefully as you wanted to, but hey, it's a low DC, and a natural 1 doesn't mean that you're incapable of doing something, even if you are very skilled in doing that thing, especially if you're skilled in doing that thing. Now, after having learned all of this, I had to rethink about why I had that sour taste in my mouth. Why that encounter left me feeling like I had been cheated, or that, our party had been cheated. And I think I finally figured it out. I don't think it was the fact that our rogue rolled a natural 20 and then still was unable to percept this person who was trying to hide from us. I don't think it was that. I think the reason that I was upset was because we were put in a situation where our only means of trying to find this guy was based on perception, and even with the best possible roll from the person who is most skilled in that skill check, we were still unable to spot this guy. And his reasoning was like, oh, well, I mean, he rolled really well too. It's like, well, did he roll a natural 20 on his stealth check? And that's I think that's where I was kind of conflicted. And that's the thing. Even, he doesn't have to roll a natural 20 on his skill check to beat a natural 20 opposed to him, I don't think. I think that the numbers should add up. I think that's really reasonable, actually. And it solves a lot of problems that I have found in the game, like attempting to do crazy things and then rolling a natural 20 and then being like, well, I rolled a natural 20, so I succeed on that crazy thing I just said, right? That is a kind of a big problem, but it's not a problem if you just follow the rules and you don't allow those natural 20s. But like I said, that's not the reason I was upset. The reason is because a skill check that we needed to succeed was unsucceedable. At least it was in that one round of combat. And, after some berating, I think the GM changed his mind, and he said, well, you're pretty sure he's in this 5-foot square, you can't actually see him, but he's, like, there, and he kind of made that concession to us, which, helped us definitely, overcome that challenge, but at the same time, in hindsight, I feel like I robbed myself of an experience there trying to figure out how to overcome this challenge. And I robbed him, I felt like he's the game master, he's the one whose authority needs to be respected, and I don't think that I was respecting his authority in that situation. So, what's the moral of the story? I think there's probably a few. First and foremost, when you're playing in someone else's game, especially if you are a game master yourself, you have got to show restraint and respect for whoever's game you are playing in. If they run things differently, you've got to just accept that. That is something that I have been having trouble. It's been so long since I've been a player in a game that I'm having trouble accepting the game master's ruling at points, and I need to remember that when he's behind the screen, it's his game, and I need to just allow that to happen. Second, those of you game masters out there, this is a moral for you. If you're going to be asking your players to make skill checks, you gotta allow that a natural 20 is going to be a success. Don't call for a skill check if there's no chance of them succeeding. I mean, someone who's untrained in a skill, rolling a natural 20 is one thing versus someone who is very proficient in the skill being applied. So that is something to consider. Maybe in In a perfect world, this is probably just a problem with encounter design. In a perfect world, it would just that character would just have a DC to spot him. His DC is like 20 or 25 or 30 or something like that, and anything higher than that is going to be high enough to spot him. And that probably would have worked a little better, as opposed to him rolling every round, and then on a chance that she rolls a 20 on the same round that he also rolls really well. That is, doesn't kind of destroy our perceptions of the game as players. So that's a lesson for the dungeon masters out there. The next moral to this story would probably be patience on the player's part. That is, if I had spent more time analyzing the situation, spent another turn thinking about what my options were instead of just immediately reacting with the BS card, that was very bad on my part again. Instead of doing that, I might have had different options. Perhaps there was a way, maybe I could have used, I was trying not to light the forest on fire again, so maybe I could have used a different spell, like a wind spell to knock up dust or something. I might have been able to find another option. I might have been able to suggest something else to one of the players. There could have been other options, and that's my fault, and kind of my player's fault as well for not trying to think of what other options we had other than just trying to immediately spot this guy. What stuff could we have done to make it easier to spot him, or to find his location in another way? And the final lesson or moral, or I don't know, I might just be reaching now trying to come up with different things, but I want to also say that communication is very important. I would not be making this video had I not already spoken with the game master who ran this game about this exact situation, and I had not spoken my piece and heard his response, and we had been able to communicate with each other and find an understanding. And I also told him about my research with the skill checks and stuff, and I communicated how surprised I was to learn that, and that it's going to be influencing my game in the future. I don't know if I've stated that to my players yet, but I'm going to be trying to think about that more consciously from now on, that a natural 20 or a natural 1 is not an automatic success or failure. And a good way to mitigate that, again, is just, if you don't think they could succeed at the skill even with a natural 20, don't call for a skill check. If you don't think that they could fail even with a natural 1 at something, then don't call for a skill check. Like, that's probably the biggest takeaway from this whole thing. But again, with that is also all the other stuff that I said on the player end of things. Giving your game master time to find their sense of the game and to hone their game to fit their tastes and the like, and giving the game master room to explore their possibilities as well. And just having patience and trying to think of other things that you can do as a player to overcome an obstacle that may not seem immediately to be overcomable. I don't know, is that a word, overcomable? I don't know. Anyway, that's enough for this week. Thank you all so much for listening. I certainly hope that I'm going to see you all again very soon.